You showered this morning. Maybe even twice if you went to the gym. You used shampoo, conditioner, body wash, face wash, probably a separate scrub for your elbows because someone on the internet told you that was a thing. You brush your teeth for 2 minutes because your dentist said so, even though you definitely did not brush for 2 minutes. You put on deodorant, maybe 2 kinds. You spritzed something on your wrist. You looked in the mirror and decided you were acceptable to exist near other people. You are, by every measurable standard, one of the cleanest humans who has ever lived, and your teeth are a disaster. Your ancestors had none of this. No shower, no soap, no toothbrush, no toothpaste, no deodorant, no dentist guilting them about flossing. They lived in the dirt, slept in the dirt, probably ate some of the dirt accidentally on a regular basis, and went their entire lives without a single hot shower, a single tube of anything, or a single moment of staring at a product label wondering what niacinamide actually does. And their teeth? Statistically, structurally, scientifically better than yours. Their skin? More resilient than yours. Their immune system? In ways that modern medicine is only beginning to understand, significantly more robust than yours. If that sounds like the setup to a joke, trust me, it is not. It is the setup to something much more uncomfortable. Because this story is not really about prehistoric humans. It is about what we lost when we decided cleanliness was next to godliness, and nobody told us what the price was going to be. If that already has you questioning everything in your bathroom cabinet, subscribe so you do not miss where this goes. It gets stranger. Let us go back, way back. We are talking about Homo sapiens somewhere between 100,000 and 200,000 years ago. A time before agriculture, before cities, before pottery, before anyone had a morning routine or a concept of what a morning routine could even be. Your ancestor woke up every single day with 0 products, 0 steps, 0 decisions about which cleanser was right for their skin type. They woke up in whatever they had slept in, which was usually animal skin or woven plant fiber if they were lucky, on a sleeping platform of layered vegetation if they were sophisticated, or directly on the ground if they were not. They had whatever was on their body from the day before. Dirt, animal fat from handling a kill, ash from the fire, plant pigment from gathering, the physical record of every single thing they had done since the last time it rained on them, which in many climates was the closest thing they had to a bath. And here is the first thing that nobody tells you. They were not passive about this. The assumption is that prehistoric humans just sat in their own mess and endured it. That hygiene is a modern invention, a luxury of civilization, something that required soap factories and municipal water systems before it could exist. That assumption is wrong. It is not even close to right. Archaeological evidence from sites on almost every inhabited continent shows something that changes the picture completely. Prehistoric humans groomed themselves, deliberately, consistently, with tools they made specifically for that purpose. Combs made from bone dating back over 17,000 years. Scrapers made from flint used to remove dead skin and debris from the body. Toothpicks carved from small bones and hardwood, found at sites across Africa, Europe, and Asia, some of them showing wear patterns that can only come from regular use against teeth and gum lines. Small pointed tools that researchers classify as ear cleaners. Tweezers made from split reeds and later from metal once metalworking arrived. These people were not wandering around ignoring their bodies. They were paying close attention to their bodies. They just had a completely different toolkit and a completely different understanding of what clean meant. And in some ways, their understanding was more correct than ours. Now let us talk about smell, because this is the question everyone is actually thinking about and nobody wants to ask out loud. Did they smell? Yes. Obviously yes. They were humans living without deodorant in physical environments that demanded constant physical exertion. They smelled like humans. They smelled like the work they did, the food they ate, the fire they slept next to, the animals they hunted and processed and wore. But here is what changes everything. Human body odor is not a fixed thing. It is not a biological constant that every human produces equally regardless of circumstances. Body odor is the output of a system, and the inputs of that system matter enormously. The primary drivers of body odor are not sweat itself, which is mostly water and salt and largely odorless, but the bacteria that live on your skin metabolizing compounds in your sweat, and the volatile chemicals produced by what you eat being excreted through your pores. Your ancestors ate nothing that you eat. Nothing. No refined sugar. No processed grain. No alcohol. No fast food. No red meat in the quantities modern people consume. No synthetic additives. No whatever was in that energy drink you had last Tuesday. Their diet was wild game, which is dramatically leaner than farmed meat. Wild plants, which contain entirely different chemical compounds than cultivated varieties. Roots, berries, insects, eggs, fish when available, and seasonal foods that changed completely depending on where they were and what time of year it was. The bacteria on their skin had been shaped by hundreds of thousands of years of that diet. The volatile compounds their pores excreted came from food sources that produced entirely different chemical signatures than anything you have eaten in your lifetime. They did not smell like your deodorant. They did not smell like a candle. They smelled like humans who ate completely different food in completely different environments, which is a smell that has no direct modern analog because almost no humans live that way anymore. The people who study this, and there are researchers who study this, find that populations living closest to ancestral dietary patterns have measurably different body odor profiles. Not necessarily less intense, different. And within communities where everyone shares the same dietary baseline, body odor as a social problem barely registers. Because everyone smells like a variation of the same thing, and that thing is the smell of the food and the landscape and the work. Not the smell of industrial chemicals and fermented processed food metabolized through a system that never evolved to handle it. This is not romantic. This is not an argument for giving up deodorant. This is just the honest answer to what they smelled like. They smelled like themselves in the context of a world where that made sense. Now, teeth. This is the part that should genuinely bother you if you have ever paid a dentist bill, and if you are an adult human living in the modern world, you have paid a dentist bill. Let us start with a number, 1 to 5%. That is the cavity rate in prehistoric hunter-gatherer populations, based on analysis of hundreds of skulls from sites across Africa, Europe, Asia, and the Americas, from populations living before the widespread adoption of agriculture and before the introduction of refined carbohydrates into the human diet, 1 to 5%, across the entire population, some sites even lower. Now let us look at another number, 90%. That is the estimated lifetime cavity rate for adults in modern high-income countries. Countries with fluoridated water, countries with widespread access to dentists and toothbrushes and toothpaste, countries where children are taught from before they can fully understand language that they need to brush their teeth twice a day. 90% of those adults will have at least one cavity in their lifetime. Most will have several. Dental decay is so common in the modern world that we have essentially accepted it as a biological inevitability of being human. It is not a biological inevitability. It is a dietary one. Dental cavities are caused primarily by one organism, Streptococcus mutans, a bacterium that lives in your mouth right now that has been living in human mouths since before we were fully human that will almost certainly be living in your mouth until you die. It is not a modern pathogen. It is ancient. Prehistoric humans had it. Neanderthals probably had it. It has been part of the human oral ecosystem for a very, very long time. But Streptococcus mutans needs fuel to do damage. Specifically, it needs fermentable carbohydrates, refined sugars, processed grains that break down into simple sugars rapidly, sweetened drinks. The food landscape of modern life. Feed Streptococcus mutans those things, and it produces acid. That acid demineralizes your tooth enamel. That demineralization becomes a cavity. That cavity becomes a filling or a crown or a root canal, and a bill that makes you briefly consider if teeth are actually necessary. Prehistoric humans had Streptococcus mutans and almost nothing to feed it. Their diet had almost no refined carbohydrates. The occasional wild fruit with its natural sugars, honey when they could find it, which was rare and seasonal, and came with the serious disincentive of bees. But nothing resembling the constant sugar bath that modern teeth live in from childhood onward. The bacteria was there. The ammunition was not. Now here is where the story shifts from facts about other people into something that might keep you up tonight. The moment agriculture arrived, the moment humans started cultivating grain and domesticating animals and settling into permanent communities and eating the same carbohydrate-heavy foods every single day, teeth started failing at catastrophic rates. Archaeological sites from early agricultural communities show dramatic spikes in cavity rates, in gum disease, in jawbone infections, in tooth loss. The skulls of early farmers look completely different from the skulls of the hunter-gatherers who came before them. One site in Morocco from approximately 15,000 years ago, just before the transition to agriculture in that region, shows a population where 94% of individuals had severe dental cavities. 94%. At a time before refined sugar, before processed food, before any of the things we blame for modern dental problems. The culprit was wild starchy plants, acorns, and other carbohydrate-rich foods that were being consumed in large quantities for the first time as people began settling in resource-rich areas. The teeth had no evolutionary preparation for this. They were designed over millions of years for a diet that was not this, and they collapsed almost immediately when the diet changed. We have been dealing with the consequences ever since, but here is what I want you to sit with for a moment. Because this is not just a story about teeth. Imagine being a person in one of those early agricultural communities. You settled because settling made sense. Your group found a place with reliable food. You planted. You stored. You did not have to move every few weeks following animals and hoping. You had something resembling security for the first time, and then your teeth started hurting. Not a little. Dental infection in a world without antibiotics is not the minor inconvenience it can be today. It is prolonged, serious pain. It is infection that can spread to the jaw, to the skull. People died from dental infections, regularly, agonizingly, and they had no way to understand why. They were eating. They were settled. Life was supposed to be better. Nobody told them that the grain they were eating every day was feeding bacteria in their mouths that was slowly dissolving their teeth. That knowledge would take 12,000 more years to accumulate. They just knew it hurt, and they endured it. And they passed their dental problems to their children. And their children passed them to their children. And here we are. If this is hitting different than you expected, the like button is right there. It actually helps more than you think. Now let us talk about what they actually did, because this is the part that gets genuinely surprising. Teeth first, the grooves found on prehistoric teeth are not random wear. Researchers analyzing teeth from sites across multiple continents have identified directional wear patterns on the inner and outer surfaces of teeth that are consistent with one thing: deliberate cleaning with a fibrous implement drawn repeatedly across the tooth surface. These people were cleaning between their teeth. Not with modern floss. With plant fiber, animal sinew, thin strips of whatever organic material was available. And they were doing it regularly enough to leave permanent marks in the enamel. Some archaeological sites have also yielded what appear to be small sticks with deliberately frayed ends, found in direct association with human remains. The frayed end matches the wear pattern on nearby teeth. These are toothbrushes. Crude, organic, biodegradable toothbrushes that have mostly not survived the millennia. But the marks they left on teeth have. In ancient Egypt, roughly 5,000 years ago, people were mixing crushed eggshell, myrrh, and pumice into a cleaning paste and applying it to their teeth with a frayed stick. The formula was written down. It is one of the earliest written dental hygiene records in human history. But the behavior it describes was not new. It was the codification of something humans had been doing with available materials for tens of thousands of years before writing existed to record it. Now skin. Animal fat was the first moisturizer. This is not metaphor. Rendered animal fat applied to skin creates an occlusive barrier that reduces transepidermal water loss, which is the technical term for your skin drying out. It protects against cold, against wind, against UV damage to a modest degree. It is also antimicrobial in some formulations because animal fat contains fatty acids that are hostile to certain bacteria. The expensive moisturizers in your bathroom are trying to do this exact thing with more elegant chemistry and a better marketing department. Clay was the first cleanser. Certain clays, particularly the ones with high mineral content, bind to oils and debris on the skin surface and physically remove them when rinsed away. This is the mechanism behind modern clay masks that cost $50 for a small jar and are sold as ancient beauty secrets, which they are, just not in the way the marketing usually implies. Ash was the first antiseptic. Wood ash in water creates a mildly alkaline solution with antibacterial properties. Prehistoric humans who spread ash under their sleeping areas to repel insects were also incidentally giving themselves access to a cleaning agent that worked against skin pathogens. They did not know the chemistry. They knew what worked. And then there is something that nobody talks about because it sits at the intersection of hygiene and intimacy, and history tends to skip over it. Social grooming. Humans are primates. Every primate species that lives in social groups practices social grooming, picking debris, parasites, and dead skin from each other. It is not just about cleanliness. It is about bonding. It is about trust. It is about the physical communication of safety and belonging that touch provides in ways that words cannot. Your closest primate relatives spend between 10 and 20% of their waking hours in social grooming activities. Not because they are dirty, because grooming is how they build and maintain social bonds. It is how they say, without language, "I see you, I am here, you are safe." Prehistoric humans did this too. The evidence is indirect because behavior does not fossilize, but the social structures of hunter-gatherer communities studied by anthropologists across the last century consistently include grooming behaviors. Hair care, skin care, the removal of parasites, the treatment of wounds and skin conditions, performed by community members for each other. Not in silence, in conversation, in laughter, in the ordinary intimacy of people who live close together and take care of each other's bodies as a matter of course. Think about what that means for a moment. For most of human history, personal hygiene was not a private activity performed alone in a locked bathroom. It was a communal one, a social one, something you did with and for the people you loved, as an expression of that love. The loneliness of the modern bathroom, where you handle your body maintenance in isolation and mild shame, is an extremely recent invention. It is not how we were built to do this. Your great-great-grandmother, not the prehistoric one, the historical one from a few hundred years ago, almost certainly had her hair combed by someone who loved her regularly, as a matter of daily life. That is not weird. That is ancestral. Now we reach the part that reframes everything, and I want you to be ready for this because it is the kind of thing that sounds wrong at first and then becomes impossible to unknow. The reason modern humans have dramatically worse dental and skin health than our prehistoric ancestors is not primarily because we are less clean. It is because we are too clean, in the wrong ways, at the wrong times, against the wrong things. The human body is not a machine that needs to be sterilized. It is an ecosystem, and like every ecosystem, it requires a specific community of organisms to function correctly. Your skin right now is home to approximately 1,000 species of bacteria, in addition to fungi, mites, viruses, and other microorganisms. This is not contamination. This is normal. This is the human skin microbiome, and it is as essential to your health as your liver or your lungs. It regulates your skin's pH. It competes with pathogenic organisms for resources, crowding them out before they can establish infection. It communicates with your immune system, training it to distinguish between threats and non-threats. It produces compounds that moisturize and protect the skin barrier. Disrupt this ecosystem and the consequences are measurable. Eczema, psoriasis, acne, rosacea, chronic skin sensitivity, increased susceptibility to infection. The conditions that dermatologists spend their careers treating are significantly associated with disruptions to the skin microbiome. And the primary driver of those disruptions in modern populations is antibacterial products, harsh cleansers, hot water used too frequently, the industrial-scale campaign against bacteria that began in the 20th century and has never stopped. Your mouth contains approximately 700 species of bacteria. Most of them are not trying to give you cavities. Most of them are actively competing with the ones that are. They form the oral microbiome, and its diversity is directly associated with oral health. Reduce that diversity through antiseptic mouthwash used daily, through a diet that feeds pathogenic species while starving beneficial ones, through antibiotics taken repeatedly over a lifetime, and the ecosystem tilts. The pathogens gain ground. The teeth suffer. Prehistoric humans had extraordinarily diverse microbiomes. Every day, every surface, every animal, every handful of food from the ground introduced new microbial diversity. The immune system was constantly trained. The skin ecosystem was constantly reinforced. The oral ecosystem was balanced against a diet that did not preferentially feed the harmful species. The hygiene hypothesis, now called the old friends hypothesis by researchers who have refined the idea, proposes that the dramatic rise in allergic disease, autoimmune conditions, inflammatory disorders, and certain mental health conditions in modern populations is directly linked to the loss of this microbial diversity. The organisms we evolved alongside for millions of years, the bacteria, the parasites, the environmental microbes, were not just passengers. They were partners. They trained our immune systems not to overreact. They provided signals that our biology expected and required. We removed them comprehensively, efficiently, with the best intentions in the world. And our immune systems, untrained and understimulated, started attacking things they should not attack. Pollen, food proteins, our own tissue. Your ancestors did not need probiotics. They were living in one. Every breath, every meal, every surface they touched was delivering microbial information their bodies were built to receive. We have spent the last century systematically cutting off that signal and wondering why so many people are sick in ways that were almost unknown 200 years ago. This is not an argument against modern hygiene. Modern hygiene, clean water, sanitation infrastructure, hand washing before surgery has saved hundreds of millions of lives. The pathogens that killed people in the past were real, and the measures taken against them were necessary. This is not a debate about whether clean water is good. Clean water is good, vaccines are good, antibiotics are good. This is an argument for nuance, for understanding that the human body is a system that evolved in relationship with its environment, including its microbial environment, and that removing that environment entirely has costs that are still being calculated. Some of those costs are being addressed. The field of microbiome research is one of the fastest growing in medicine. Fecal transplants, once dismissed as eccentric, are now an established treatment for certain gut infections. Probiotic research has moved from the wellness industry into mainstream clinical settings. Scientists are attempting to identify and restore the specific microbial communities that modern humans have lost, to reintroduce the old friends that our immune systems grew up expecting. They are essentially trying to put back what 200,000 years of living in the world gave us for free, and selling it in capsules for $40 a bottle. So let us bring this together, because there is a real conclusion here, not just a collection of facts. Your prehistoric ancestors woke up every morning with no products, no routine, no understanding of germ theory or microbiology or the chemistry of skincare. They cleaned themselves with sticks and ash and animal fat. They groomed each other as an act of love. They ate food that their teeth were built for, and their teeth did not betray them. They lived in full sensory contact with the world around them, and that contact was doing things for their bodies that we still do not entirely understand. Then agriculture came. Then cities, then the 19th century and its great sanitation revolution, which saved lives on a scale that is almost impossible to overstate and deserves every credit it receives. Then the 20th century and its industrial hygiene complex, which gave us antibacterial soap and antiseptic mouthwash, and the idea that the human body is an object to be sanitized rather than an ecosystem to be maintained. We are cleaner now than at any point in human history, and we are sicker in certain specific ways than our ancestors were. Not because cleanliness is bad, because cleanliness is complicated, because the war on bacteria was won so thoroughly that we took out allies along with enemies, because the signal our bodies evolved to receive from the world was cut off so completely that our immune systems are now, in a very real sense, fighting each other out of boredom. The next time you stand in your bathroom surrounded by 17 products and none of them feel like enough, maybe consider that the problem is not that you need more products. Maybe the problem is that 200,000 years of evolution built a system that was never meant to operate in a sealed, sterile, artificially fragrant environment. And that system is doing the best it can. But it misses the dirt, it misses the fire, it misses the rain, it misses the 100 species of microorganisms that used to arrive with every handful of food and every barefoot step and every person who combed your hair and told you without words that you were safe. Your ancestors were not clean by modern standards, but they were in a way we are still trying to fully understand whole next video. We are going somewhere even less comfortable. How did prehistoric humans handle going to the bathroom? No toilets, no paper, no privacy, no concept that any of this needed to be private. 200,000 years of solving a problem that every human being on Earth has multiple times every single day. And trust me, you already want to know the answer. You do not want to miss it.